Okay, good evening, everyone. We apologize for the delay with the food service, and welcome to all our virtual Zoomers. In assessing PMI, at least continental in the United States, we're one of 12 chapters that have resumed in-person events. And tribute to our past president, current vice president of Treasury, and for being the first to come back to in-person events. So we're glad to see a full room here. Okay, as you've seen in our newsletter and briefed at our last meeting, for those who are return attendees, our chapter scholarship season has extended to the 15th of April. So a week from today, I believe, or tomorrow. That's one open scholarship to all Montgomery County high schools. Mr. Steckel, raise your hand, has done a great job of working with all the guidance counselors. And also a member scholarship for family members of graduating seniors. Mr. Rosenthal was a recipient last year, sitting at the table here, so the check did clear. It's not just for show. So we know $1,000 to higher education doesn't go as far as it did 20 or 30 years ago, but it's still a little bit of help. And from a resume perspective and their student profile, winning scholarships is always a good thing. So if the application's on the chapter website, and if you have any questions about eligibility, Mr. Steckel will hang around here for a few minutes. Okay, last month, our current board for this next 2-year cycle started their positions formally. You'll see 2 blue boxes that say you, so we're still looking for spots for the Vice President of Communications, helping out with the chapter social media, newsletters, things of that nature, as well as the co-vice president of programs to help Dr. Scott Chen recruit the great speakers that we have this evening, and we try to have a balanced slate of project manager experts with technical skills and benchmarking from projects, combined with more soft skills and leadership and communication to get a good balance of that. So if you're interested in more stepping into a philanthropy type position, please let us know. Okay, we'll come back to that. If you're a construction or manufacturing project manager, could you please raise your hand? Okay, we have one. If you know any construction or manufacturing project managers, could you raise your hand? And that includes in chat, if you could just state that you have a recommendation. We have a few people in the crowd here who are looking for those expertises. So. Okay, to kick off the year, we've seen a lot of chapter members get certified. So this past month in March, we had 12 first-time PMPs. The exam is still based on PMBOK version 6. We expect to get news from Big PMI of when the exam will be version 7. And we had 2 Discipline Agile Scrum Masters. Our friends at Leadership Techniques have done a great job of being ambassadors for that and offer a few DASM boot camps. Micro credentials are a new feature that PMI has really been committed to in the past year. So we had 2 members receive their Agile Hybrid Project Pro micro credential. And then even with Discipline Agile, the Agile Certified Practitioner, the ACP, is still offering. So congratulations to Ms. Ware for that. So. And I'll turn it over to our president, Mr. Gene Edry, for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening, everyone. Food must be good because everybody's chewing. Thank you for being members. Thank you for being members of our chapter and joining us in person. Look around. This is one heck of a showing tonight, right? And I am going to credit it to Mr. Lambert, but we have a very good showing online too. I think we're close to the 200 mark. So talk about a draw, right? I know. So we are, one thing, one announcement, I've got to have some, I'm going to have some at the end as well. Did you talk about seeking another volunteer? Okay, never mind, that one's covered. I will then just transition really quickly over. We're honored tonight to have Mr. Lee Lambert, a longtime friend and supporter of our chapter. He's here with us this evening in person, which is really, really nice. Thanks, Lee, for your outstanding support to this chapter, and I will hand it over to Matt to do the formal introductions. Enjoy the presentation.
As we get back to the new normal, all of our education partners are starting to offer some in-person classes. But as everyone's observed, virtual education is sometimes even more convenient, assuming you're paying attention and not just have it on the background. So from Carl Pritchard to Lisa and David with leadership techniques, to Joe Liani with project manager experts, to Mr. Lambert with his consulting group. Visit our website. We try to keep our event calendar updated with as many of their offerings as possible. Many have discounts for PMI global members, but also special discounts for chapter members. Okay, as Mr. Edry stated, we're very proud to have Mr. Lee Lambert here. We keep metrics on all our speakers, and since our chapter origin in 2004, thanks to our founder, Mr. Geist, this will be Mr. Lambert's 11th time speaking at our chapter. So he's beating Carl Pritchard by 2, so maybe we can get Carl back twice this year to tie it. But if you think back to when the first PMP exam was crafted in 1984, with the first test taken in 1986, Mr. Lambert was one of the founders of writing that exam and its evolvements over time. He's also one of 72 living PMI Fellows. You'll see the thing that looks like an Olympic gold medal hanging proudly around his neck, and that's the highest and most prestigious award PMI gives out annually. They only give out, I think, 2 a year. It really speaks to all the contributions that and the ambassadorship that a professional makes for PMI. So, we're very proud to have a PMI Fellow in the crowd. If you've heard of stealth learning, Mr. Lambert was the creator of that, and also the past president of the Central Ohio PMI chapter, which is the second greatest chapter in the world. So we'll turn it over to you, sir, and thank you.
Okay, I need to make a couple of quick corrections of some things you said, Matt. The version that we're testing on right now really has nothing to do with the 6 or the 7, other than they are reference documents. The test that you're taking now is the test that will be that way until they revise it again. We made a big switch with the new PMBOK, going from the old style to a principle-based format. And therefore, it's one of 10 documents that we suggest you use as a reference. But the old days of memorizing PMBOK 6 so you can pass the test are gone. And the second thing that's kind of important for you guys as well as me is Carl Pritchard is no longer in the business. Carl has been ill. He's sold his business. He's out of business. I'll be with him in the morning, as a matter of fact. And he has rather serious liver problems. So you won't be seeing him here, although I did see he's speaking somewhere. He must be feeling well enough to speak. But, so he won't be tying my record. That's the way I am. So I'll tell him that tomorrow. He and I were the teachers 1 and 2 for ESI. If any of you have ever worked for ESI, got trained through ESI, we were number 1 and 2. He's still not conceded that he was number 2, but we were doing that together for about 10 years. So it's a great guy. All right, let me tell you what I want to do tonight. And this is an interesting topic. We talk about tools with our project management people. Everybody kind of forgets that at the end of the day, people have to do something. And we started to rely on tools to the extent that if you don't have tools, you're not going to get anything done. So I want to spend a little time talking about what kind of '96. There was a page in there still in the old 6, I think it said rolling wave plan. You heard of that? You ever see that in there? Yeah. That's the start of that. So we get credit for it, okay? Not the guys who wrote the 2001 version of manifesto. All right, go ahead and put a slide up. I wanna get talking about this. I've given this presentation 2 other times, Baton Rouge and Indianapolis. They all hated it. They thought it was too much for the facts of the game. But I want to point out to you a little thing that's happened over the past. Well, I've been in the business 55 years. Okay. And I've been a PMI member for 40 years. Were any of you born after 78? Yeah, well, if you don't want a minute, that's okay. But that's when I joined PMI, 1978. And I started working in project management in 1966. That's 66. And so during that time, I've found ways to avoid working whatsoever. And it's still working for me. But I do want to point out to you, the way I got started in the business was going to a company, a small company called General Electric, and they couldn't figure out how to get projects done. And so I said, well, you know, there's tools that you can use, there's things that we can do. Back in those days, they started with earned value. That's where I sort of cut my teeth on earned value system for a nuclear power generator. And we started to look at the tools. But one of the things that's happened with this business is that we have become tool happy. And if you look at the box, you see it's full already. And they're still coming out every other month. There's a new tool. And so I found that I need to review all these tools to see if any of them are any good. And so, and I get free stuff when I do that. That's the way I got all my books. I offered a review for people. And so I've looked at most of these, but the one that I use the most, I've left out of the box because there wasn't room, called Common Sense. And I think that as I grew up in this business, what I learned was it's about common sense. I can actually, now some of you will believe it, I can actually run a project with no tools. Now, back when I started, we had the tools we had a little bit different than what you have now. We had 2 tools really. We had paper and pencil. That's what we kind of started with, you know, and then we went on from there to spiral. It was nice. And so the first project management tool, and I looked this up, there's really some back in the Greek days, but you wouldn't recognize it. But the one that really got it all going was Harvard Project Management. Some of you remember that? Harvard Project Management was the very first, and it was, I mean, they claimed the schedule tool. It was really a timeline chart thing. And that sort of started it all. And then came the US Navy, hired Booz Allen Hamilton, strong emphasis on the booze. And they created the PERT system, the PERT evaluate program evaluation review technique for the Polaris program. And it was invented to look at risk management. Some people call it a scheduling tool. Wasn't intended to be a scheduling tool, it's a risk management tool. But PERT and then CPM. Now, CPM was developed by DuPont back in the day. Some of you, I can see some of the older folk can remember that DuPont wanted to know, they were building about 7 or 8 plants around the world. And what they wanted to know was, what would the effect be of throwing additional resources at those plants to get them online sooner? Would there be a payback? Would it be beneficial to up the resources to deliver early so you could go online and begin to generate revenue? And that's really what it was all about, was how do we do that? How can we determine? And so they created critical path. I know you heard of critical path. I would guess, I mean, I could be wrong here, but I would guess there's probably not more than 10 of us in there that even ever use critical path. That's all. Raise your hand, critical path, show me, will you? I'll be damned, 10. How about that? Look at that. Did you see that? 10 of them. Yeah. How many should be? Every single one of us should be. The critical path, in my view, is one of the most powerful tools you can ever use. Because if you want to look smart, and I know we're not, if we want to look, then use critical path so that you can start to look at what are the impacts of the resource distribution. Remember, when we're working in, I don't think any of you are now working in pure environments where you own all the resources in a certain category. We have these sheets called matrix method. Now, what's the disadvantage of matrix method? You don't own the resource. You don't own the resource. Oh, that's a problem. Well, it's not a problem if you don't care if you ever get that. It's a little bit of a problem if you say you need 8 engineers, and the engineers that are available, there's 8 of them, but they're also working on 4 other jobs in addition to your job. Okay, and so when you start looking at that, you say, well, wait a minute, I'm only going to get them for 2 hours a day, and you put that into the system that says, well, that's going to tilt, because it's going to say, well, you're not going to deliver on time, because you show them as on the critical path with an 8-hour day. Okay. Now the other problem we have, and this is, I cannot, as much as I deal with people in the private industry about this, as much as I charge them to listen to what I have to say, I have to say it several times, therefore charging them several. And it's not that complicated, but what we do in our project management world is we plan in effort hours and execute in duration hours. So if we say an engineer is going to take 8 hours, we'll put 8 hours in the plan, even though that engineer may not be available but 2 hours a day. So I'll automatically, here's my view of Texas. Nothing. Here's my view of Texas. If every project that I've ever worked on, that I've ever been involved in, starts the first day you start, you're behind schedule. And that's because of the misapplication of resources. And so you start moving along, and all of a sudden you start to see schedules are beginning to slip. And they say, well, what the hell's the matter with you, Lee? Can't you get a job done? And then you say something like, if you give me the resources, you fool. I mean, well, not if that's your boss, you don't say that, but the fact of the matter is that they don't get it. They don't get it. And they've gone away to these planning sessions where they all fight for their line in the funnel, so that all the silos are beating each other up trying to get their projects approved, and they get them approved, but they don't have enough people to do them, and so they come to project manager and say, we need to get this done. So the project manager, project managers are miracles. I don't care what your bosses say, they don't really know. There would be anything get done. How many of you have ever seen an executive level in your organization do a project? They don't do projects. They tell you to do projects. And so that's why you need tools. because that's the only way you're gonna compensate for the misapplication of resources. So when you look at these, you know, and we go to, now we're on a big soft skill thing. You know, we start out tools, techniques, now we're on soft skills. So now we need to teach how to be leaders, and be communicators, and, you know, things that you do in normal everyday life, but now all of a sudden we feel in projects that you've got to do that. So those go in the box, and then Gantt charts and cost plans and all the things that go in there. And pretty soon you don't have time to do any project work, but you got reports coming out your ears. You got more pieces of paper than you never imagined you had. And projects are still going to go south, but you're going to have documentation, and that's what you want to be sure of. Okay. All right. Next. So here's the one tool that if you're not doing this, then you're kind of wasting away that bit. Okay, son, it was free. Mine was free, but you got a dinner out of the deal. But if you're not doing this, you might as well get into another field, maybe stocks or something like that. The thing with the WBS, and a lot of people don't understand this, but that BS doesn't stand for what you think it does. That's breakdown structure, you see. And so if I take a project and I want to really plan a project, which is kind of a key part of execution. If I want to plan a project, I have to break it down into component pieces. Okay. I can't leave everything up in big lump sums and think that we're going to be able to schedule that or plan that or allocate resources to that work. So I've got to break it down. So I've broken these down for you. This is where I learned this in '73 with GE when we started doing this earned value thing. Work packages and earned value kind of go hand in hand. Okay. So we've got, I'll start with the present work packages. And those are the ones that we're working on now. Usually over there is short-term time. And the reason they're short-term, let me ask you, why do we want short work packages? What's the advantage of short work packages? Now, one of the things you can't do is everyone has to have a little. What's the advantage of short work packages? Say what? Okay. Better estimate. If there's small pieces of work, does that make sense? Get a better estimate. If it's going to be a week long, and you can figure pretty close to what you intend. Okay. So that's consistent with what I would say. The other thing that's nice with short work packages is you know when you're done. You can measure whether you're done or not. Okay. If you do this long work packages, it's all more average. So these agile people have sucked up every good thing out of our program. So if you look at that, then the present, it gives you an opportunity to have a good sense on the short term, what it's going to take from a resource perspective, which means what it's going to take from a budgeting perspective and a time perspective. So that's the work. Those are the ones we're working on right now. And if you're really into the cost management side, you can give it an account number, and you can make sure that they'll chart that account with what's drawn to report on. In GE, I got to take charge of what we call the bad chart. And every month I get to go through all the charges of the project to find out who was charged for what they were supposed to. And there were times we had $100,000 of bad charges because, you know, the engineers so they can walk around. Like going down, go charge. So you've got to be able to manage that. We don't do that now. We don't want to be bothered by. Then we've got the future ones. These are planning packs. Okay. These are the ones that are in the out time frame that we're going to pull into detail as we move into more information. Again, I'm kind of speaking actual here. As we begin to get closer to the out time frame, you reach out and pull that in. Now it becomes unauthorized presence. Okay? So that's how those fit together. But that's not neither one of those the most important. The most important is completed work package. The ones that we're done with, we're already done with. And why is that so important? There you go. Oh, so you get paid. I like that. The offer, the package or the plan package are converted into actual packages gives you what we call a learning curve. It gives you a chance to say, the next time I have a project like this, I can refer to the work packages on the last project and look for similarities. Look for things that are going to be the same or not going to be the same. So that my new plan for a similar project, you gotta realize most of your companies do the same thing day in and day out. You're innovative and creative and all that crap. What? At the end of the day, you're doing the same thing as last one. Okay? So if you do that, then you're gonna have a basis to work from. You're gonna have something to use as a measurement point. If you're in any of you athletes, I didn't watch some of them using it. Any runners or swimmers? Okay, we got kind of one of each. All right. So if you look at, if I translate project management into an athletic environment, why? I never got into this. But if I was really interested in an athlete, and I decided, I gotta practice. I'm gonna practice every day. What's the benefit of all that? Getting better. And how do you know you can get better? If I start practicing, I'm gonna measure, right? If today I ran, let's see if I can bet a mile in the 12 minutes, and so tomorrow I want to run 11 minutes, and I want to keep running it faster and faster and faster, learning what I'm doing wrong. Okay, so athletes don't just practice to help; they don't just practice. You go to the athlete, if you go to Colorado Springs, watch the athletic training center for the Olympics. You can see they're looking at ways to improve their time. Well, why isn't it the same for project management? Why don't we get together the project and really analyze the heck out of that and find out what could we do better? What could we do that would improve our capabilities? I don't think we get sometimes that just taking up space and drawing a paycheck isn't the satisfaction that you get. The satisfaction that you get that you technically speaking, if you were to practice working through a concept, you would eventually get it done before you start. You would improve so much that you would get it done before you start, technically speaking. That's what work packages are about. Okay? That's what work packages are about. When they're done, you analyze them and pass what you learned on to the next project. Now, they're not similar, of course. It's a little bit different. But that's basically good. Unless you're in the R&D business, that really apply very well in that business, you're going to be able to operate in that particular mode. So if I look at your plan, if I were to ask you to bring up your plan, let me see it. I wouldn't see this. I wouldn't. Would any of you lie and say you would? Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, no, I'm not going to see that because that would take way too long to do this. We've got much more time to do this over than do it right. So we've got to make sure we understand. All right, go ahead. Okay, so here's the tool. Now, is there? Wait a minute, I got to put it out. Is there a microphone? Okay, I can go ahead and talk about it. I happened to learn this at Microsoft. I was called by a guy named Tony Scott, who was the CIO at the time, and he wanted me to help them kick off a new approach to doing project management at Microsoft. And I said, okay, well, how many people are going to be there? He said, about 300 of Microsoft's finest project managers. Okay. I said, "Whoa, that's a little intimidating. I don't know, man. I mean, Microsoft projects been around a while. They're pretty important." I said, I think I'm gonna pass. And then he mentioned the money, and I thought, well, we could initiate our discussion on this. And so we ended up finding some common ground. And so I went out there, they picked up the limo, the only time that's ever happened. Take me out to the meeting room, sure enough, the 200 of their finest out there. And Tony gets up and gets a little kickoff. By the way, he left right after that to seek other duties. And so he got his little pitch up, and he sat down right beside me. And I said, okay, I'll make sure you understand. You always set expectations. Don't do that. So I said, I want to make sure you all understand that what I'm here for is not training. I'm not here to train you. It's not my system. It's a Microsoft approach. But I'm here to sort of kick it off, sort of kind of like a cheerleader. That's what I am. I'm a cheerleader. And you know, you've all been there. I mean, some of you probably don't remember high school, but the cheerleading, you know, the stands, everybody cheer and run out there. And so the cheerleading didn't really help, but that's kind of what I'm there for. So I just want to make sure you understand that. I said, yeah, okay. And so I said, now one other thing I got to find out, I got to set the boundary. I said, how many of you, because I've been told there's 300 clients, how many of you currently use Microsoft projects on your project? And I got really quiet. And I said, let me say it again. I'm like, bam. So, but no, it's pretty soon. A few hands went up. So I think that's 39 Microsoft people. Well, at that time, Tony Scott stood up and looked at me. This was pretty much next to him and wasn't back. And so he left the room. I said, okay, good, it's fine. I said, what? I said, why are you here? You're 300 clients, and you're not using very cool 97% of the market share. How do you become the finance? I said, why don't you use it? And I said, what? Just give me a reason. I mean, there's 72% of the market share, pretty balanced. And so finally, a lady in the back stood up and she said, well, she said, Mr. Lambert, it's just too complicated. It's too complicated. That nailed the excuse why most of them don't use it. Okay? Because it is complicated for someone who's not used to using it. And I outsmarted this on projects I always hired and I just wanted to get a product. So I said, okay, so, well then, all right, then now let me follow the question more time. If you're not used to it's too complicated, then you're among the 300 minus 5% project managers. I said, what are you using? And so we use Excel spreadsheets. And a week later, Tony Scott put out a memo that said anybody caught an Excel spreadsheet manager projects won't be there any longer. Now, of course, they ended up buying Excel to cover that point. But the fact of the matter was, they weren't using it. The same reason I didn't use it, the same reason you probably don't use it. And if you're going to use those kinds of tools, those complex tools, you really have to have someone who has to use it. We can't pay all of you to learn Microsoft projects. It's just not cost effective. So we want to make sure we have the right kind of people. They did fire Tony Scott right after that presentation. So I think in retrospect, he wished he hadn't called it. Okay, give me another one. All right, so if we look at this the way I see it, is if I do the work package, okay, that's easy to convert into schedule. That's not a big issue. I think the bigger issue because it's hot right now, because, well, later on, I'll say it's hot, is the risk management. Because if we have the work broken down in the kind of granulation that we need, we can actually do meaningful risk assessment. And therefore look at what potential effects we can have and what we can do about to minimize the risk. This is an area that most project managers really don't spend enough time, because your projects are filled with risk. There's so many. I mean, we've mentioned a couple of them here today. The resource allocation risk is primo risk right on top of everything else. If you can't get the people, it doesn't matter. And so management, they didn't get there by mistake. They didn't get to the top of the heap by accident. They understand you got a resource problem, they'll just give you more resources. They'll just keep piling them on, and then they'll let you still stay late. So you got to be sure we can tell them what those resources are. So if you look at the risk, I always look at this as the model, PMI claimed the model been around long before PMI thought about it. We look at the risk event, we look at the impact, we look at the probability, and we got 4 handling techniques, really only 3 apply. And so we've got to look at that from the standpoint of any individual risk. We have to weigh that in terms of probability and in terms of impact before we decide what to manage it. And we don't do that. You know how we manage risk now? Say, well, that probably won't happen. That's the way we manage risk. I said, what about this risk? Say, well, we don't know. Well, yeah, that's good. I'm glad. And then now what do? You go back to the fire project and say, well, it happened on that line. Yeah, but that's in the top. It won't happen on this. Okay. So we've got to use it in order to do that. And the other thing that you don't do, and you need that schedule for, is to look at what the downstream impacts of risk are. Just because this one work package has a risk that has some impact, that may ripple through this entire project. If it's on the critical path, you're not going to end up getting things done. So you've got to make sure we look at it from that standpoint. What are the long-term effects of risk? It may look small, but if it's on the critical path, any risk event that extends that critical path by 1 day is an important risk. It needs to be looked at. Okay, so we've got to make sure we've got enough plan done that we can incorporate that risk event. All right, give me another slide. Okay, so here's how we do it. This is. Have any of you had the dashboard set? Come to your place. Yeah, this is a hot topic right now. There's everybody selling dashboards. Because that's the way you do it. You know, you get a dashboard, you can tell what everything's going on. I did some work for now tonight. For a government agency. How about that? I did some work for a government agency, and they had the most phenomenal dashboard system set up, and you could see someone stole this from the traffic light scenario. The green, yellow, and red. See, it's pretty simple. I always use that as an example because the green, that's when we first start the project. Everything's green because it hasn't got screwed up yet. Okay, so it's green. And then as we get a little bit into the project, then there's a chance it might go yellow. And what does yellow mean? Caution, be sure. Sure, I mean, like, think about it. You're driving. My wife used to say, well, she's not the very good driver, but I'd be driving and light's green. Okay, I'm coming up here and say, turns yellow. And what do you do after yellow? You've done it, man. You get through the damn light. And so I was just man, I crossed through that thing. And she said, you just ran a light. I said, no, that was a long yellow. So when it turns yellow, they're trying to tell you something. They aren't saying, well, that's a pretty color. They're saying, if this continues, it's going to be a problem. Okay, so we've got green to yellow and then to red. Okay, so most of them that I saw went green, yellow, 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 green, yellow, never went to red. Now, why don't they go to red? What happens when the dashboard goes to red? You get help. That's what happens. You get help from people you don't want help from because now they're going to be in a panic, see, because it's red. Well, that's what this government agency had a great system. So they brought me in to review it. That's the, if you ever get jobs like that where it's review, it's awesome. And so they brought me in to review, and I reviewed them, and I never found one that was red. They had about 25 projects deep done, but not a single one was red. And so I learned real quickly that the dashboard doesn't really bail you out. If we were to use it correctly, it's a powerful tool. It really is a powerful tool because it can give us some advanced warning. When we start to see it turn yellow, you've got some time now to figure out what's the impact, what's going on here. And that's what we want to be able to do. If we're going to manage projects, we should be able to manage them in a way that prevent us from having to have bad things happen. In other words, if you're on top of your project, you can at least come up with a resolution for potentially bad problems. You may not get management support, but you can certainly look like you're smart. And that's what I learned years ago. Thank God. I don't have to be smart. I just have to look smart. And if you use tools like this, use information like this, you can actually look really quite smart. You know, and if you change job often, I'm going to say you're no different. And so that's what you have to look at. All right. Okay, so this is where we are now. We're at the first live event. Okay. How many did you say? 12 chapters? 12 chapters. That's unbelievable. 12 chapters are meeting live. And these are not necessarily the big chapters. They're all scared to get together. They don't want to take a chance. PMI just did their first live meeting in where were we? Orlando. Yeah, I mean, you have to. And so we were in Orlando, and it was unbelievable to see people together and exchanging and collaborating. I mean, some really good things happen at that meeting. And I'm there. My role, I have a role with PMI now. After 50 some years, I finally convinced them to get a job. And my role is senior. I just got to get stressed. It's really impressive. Senior strategic advisor to PMI. So anything good comes out of PMI, it was my idea. Okay? Anything bad, it's the old school. You just never know what's going on. But that's my role. What they did, they said, we think we got problems. They really did. They said, yeah, so we'd like to get your insight. They feel like I'm a people's representative. Okay? Even though I've been a PMI member since 1978, I've never gotten involved in politics and upper level management. So I have a pretty clear conscience in terms of that. And so I'm trying to figure out what we can do to let PMI be what it used to be. Some of you have been around long enough to know what it used to be. And it's gotten away from that a little bit. So we're hoping that next year too, we'll be able to come back to that where people are using it as a networking opportunity. I mean, I saw you guys were doing a good job today. We're talking about, I don't know if there's talking about project management, we're talking a lot, and collaborate, exchange information. That's what PMI is supposed to be about. Okay. The other thing it's supposed to be about, which I think is proven to be true, is it positions you for a higher level job. If you take it seriously and learn what's out there to be learned, then you put yourself in a very high level position. I'll be honest with you, I don't know Duke about Duke. Okay. When I started out, I was a craftsman. I drew things on a piece of paper. I could see that wasn't where I was, And so I started to listen. To what people said. They were a lot smarter than I was. Started to take advantage of those rubbing off on me. So finally, I got an opportunity that was given to me. I beat 2 PhD guys out of the National Laboratory because I can talk common sense. And then I say, you start to get opportunities. They're not going to hand them to you. And just because you got a PMP, okay? You still have to perform. That's a weird thing. Is that even with the PMP, I expect to do your job. And so having a PMP is important. Don't get me wrong. We've got 1.4 million now. And so I think it's proven itself. But I don't think that's going to carry you to any great height. Here's what I tell the PMP people. PMI doesn't care for this much. But the PMP does one thing and one thing only. It opens the door for opportunity. But once you go through the door, you got to perform. You can't say, oh, but I got a PMP. Well, so do 90 other people that I work with. Get you in the door. So my oldest daughter, is 55. 55. I had the same discussion with her about her lobby. She went to Malibu to Pembroke, and you know how she got there? Brochure came in the mail. And she opened it up. She said, "Man, that's where I'll go to school." I said, yeah. She goes, "Oh, look at this view." And so she went there, okay? And she graduated from Malibu, from Pepperdine, and she went to work for Gibson Construction, which is the largest firm in California. But in order to do that, she would have had to have very good grades and been on law review and some things like that. I think you're a lawyer, takes quite a bit to do that. She didn't have any of that. She didn't. I mean, she barely got by. There's a class of 300 to 157. Then she said, "I'm going to work for Gibson." Do you understand what the people they take for new hires? I said they take the top 1% in the nation. She said, "I know, but I'm going to." I said, "Well, okay," but I said, "I'll help you. I'll help you get ready if that's what you want." She said, "I do." I said, "Okay, well, here's what to do. You got to find out who you're going to interview. Get the name of the person you're going to interview." Okay, she said, "All right, I can do that." She said, "I already know that. It's what they call a big yeah. And she said, "So I already know that." She said, "Now what?" I said, "Okay. So what you've got to do is now I did mention to you that she's living in a guy named Bob Kaufman's house, who's an adjunct professor at Pepperdine, and is her gone away father when I can't be there. Okay, so there was some other connection there, but she said, "Now," I said, "You find out what this guy does. Spare time. You find out where he spends his time, and then we'll be in a position to show that for them." And I said, "Well, then we'll modify the resume, modify the CV. Well, I'll show you how to hide the grades. You'll never know what the grades are. I can bury those suckers. They'll never know what the grades are." And she said, "Okay." So she went away. So about a week later, she called me up and said, "Okay, I got it already. Dad, I want you to take a look at it before I go in for the interview." I said, "Well, how much time do you have?" She said, "I got 40 minutes with this guy to interview." I said, "Okay, let me see it." So she sends it over to me, and I'm reading that. It's pretty good. I couldn't tell what grade she had, and I knew she did that school. And so I'm looking down. Finally, I get down the end though, and I said, Marty, I said, what is this? What is this? I said, "You got down here on hobbies, kayak." What? I mean, we live in Ohio. It's not a big sport there, okay? Kayaking. She said, "Yeah, I know, Dad. I did exactly what you said. I checked this guy out. this guy's in the water. Any minute he's not in the courtroom, he's in the water. He's a professional kayaker. She said, I put that down, that'll open up the conversation. I said, yeah, that will. I said, but what are you gonna do if he asks you something about kayaking? She said, oh, Dad, she said, my God, you know me better than that. She said, I've been saying kayak lessons for 2 weeks. That's how you get jobs, okay? That's how you get jobs. She was smart enough. I don't care. When I interview people, I really don't care what the grades are. To be honest with you, I really don't. I want to talk about what their work ethic is. I want to talk about how motivated they are, and then we can talk about a job. And so she learned that the hard way, although she did it extremely well. So when they got into the interview, they had 25 minutes talking about kayaking. The rest of the time was supposed to tell. And she knew as well as I knew she did that job. Some poor kid who worked their butt off their whole time in law school didn't get that job because Marty outsmarted. And I think you need to think about that in project management. You don't have to be the smartest project manager on the block. You just have to prove that you can get the job done. I think it's important. The tools are just a byproduct of the process. And they should help you do your job more efficiently. But at the end of the day, you still have to do the job. And all they do is provide the information you need to make the better decisions out of other people that may or may not do that. Okay. All right. Any questions? Or how are we doing? Am I good? Okay. Any questions? Because I got answers. Doesn't matter what you ask, I got it. I figured if you're asking questions, put all the answers. So you just can't think of what anything really? I mean, I'm so into this idea of project management. Say again. What'd you say? Oh yeah, I should do that. Yeah, you guys are all lit up here, shaking your head, nod, like you know everything. So what do you got? Questions? Oh, that's like the sales work? Yeah. I'll tell you what, I never really talked much about clients. Oh yeah, they want to know how's the best way to deal with clients. The clients don't care about this either. They just want the job done when they want it done. For the amount of money that they're willing to pay. I think, from my perspective, part of the marketing job of an organization is to do a quasi-project plan before you ever sell a job. It's unbelievable how many jobs we sell that don't have a plan of ever getting done. But we did it, why? To sell it. To sell it. Senior management will tell you your job is to sell it. Not to get it done. They'll worry about that later. But when you get into contracting business, sell it. Do what you have to do to sell it. But we're saying that it's going to take 10 people. No, make it 7. Because the number came out when we used 7. And so we win the project and lose the contract. So you got to make sure you do that. It's a communication issue. And it takes a little time to build up a reputation of being candid, open, and honest. But that's sometimes new in the business. But I think it's important that we do that and we build a reputation out of it. And that's what we have to do. Okay, other questions. You got more questions? Yeah. Just a minute, I gotta cut that. good question. Good question. So you want to know if I see us going away from the servant leader model, which is like been a big deal last year, year and a half, maybe 2 years. The answer to that is no, I don't. I mainly because I believe that. I think I think that's how we become successful. Is practice that servant leadership. I think the more leaders who understand it's not about you, it's about your people, the more effective we'll be. I don't see PMI going away from that. They're big proponents of that. So yeah, I don't think that's going to change at all. Maybe get a little stronger, actually. Yes, you had something, sir, in a blue shirt. No, I was oh, you were helping, sir. Okay. Oh God, I knew it was gonna happen. Oh, I knew. Agile, no, you can't, there's no way you can live without agile on it. You can't, I mean, you gotta have it. You gotta have it. Agile is, any other questions?
I understand. I really understand what you mean by that.
No, I have been struggling with Peter now. Because as I joked about the rolling leg concept, I've always thought that way. And agility. Now I didn't add all the scrums, the sprints, and the 1 minute. All of those are good things. I'll tell you what, in my early days, if I had been to hold a daily meeting, a stand-up meeting with all the people, that's the other false. You know, the way it says is all the people, the executives, the sponsors, all of them participate in a stand-up meeting. See, I've never seen one of those people like that. It's usually just the same old working people who do it anyway. So I think that Agile, for what Agile is, I think it's okay. It just decimates all project management. Doesn't matter. But because technically speaking, there is no project manager in Agile configuration. Am I right? All right. Yeah. There's no project manager. So I get calls every day. What do you think they ask me? What good is this PMP? We're going to Agile and we're even the project manager in Agile. I just suck it up and go figure out what to do that. I mean, so what do? You go get an Agile certificate. This is the other thing I get. Oh, I've been to all this trouble with PMP, all the studying and cheated on a test. all that, and then they say, but now what do I do? Well, you get an Agile certification. So now you're ready for either way. If you get in a position where the job they're offering you is a job, well, you already got that. You're you know how to do that. If it's an Agile job, you just got certified in that as well. So I don't think that's something that we do. Now I'm not taking no action. Say that right now. But I mean, I'm sure I'll pass. So I don't think it's a bad thing to see us go to the Agile side. What you have to do is be smart enough to not be naive to think that you can run a construction or a road production project with an Agile concept. Now I've had arguments. Oh yes, you can. Oh yes, you can. I said, well, you have an example where it's done. No, we're working on them. We're working on them. It's not meant for that. I mean, at the end of the day, there's always going to be projects, and there's always going to be Agile projects. If you get overqualified in one or the other, it's too career limited as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if I were still working, I would say before. If I was still working, I'd want to be certified in both. Look, I think that way I'm covered. There's nothing I can't handle. So I think we have to do that. And there's so many Agile companies out there now. PMI got in a little bit late with their acquisition of PA. but they're trying to come back from that now. Their ACP certification is still one of their highest in-demand certifications. So they're still a player, but they're not top dog players. Okay, yes, sir. Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think. No, that's right, but some people think it is. Some people think that does. But my rule of thumb is this. Just say it fast. Nobody really knows what you know, I think that's what you have to pay attention to. But I think you're right in that it's that way whenever we change from one paradigm to another paradigm. Is that we say, well, we'll just leave that paradigm behind. We'll go ahead and use this. But you can't just throw all that stuff out. There's too many things there that we've built up. I mean, we've been working on predictive since, well, God built the place on a predictive model, and that's exactly what we've got. So, I mean, advocates got a long way to go before they catch up to that. And so that's something that we have to pay attention to. That's a good comment. Very good. Anything else? Am I still okay on time? 5 more minutes. Okay, we got 5 more minutes. I know you're thinking about it, but whenever I do presentation, I always try to scope out the audience to see who the subject jokes are. And so I want to talk to you. Do you have a question? No, you don't. No, I appreciate that. I think that's really, if I could convince you of one thing, that's project management. I mean, a lot of people go, that's not exactly fun. It is. It is fun. What's more fun than having a sense of accomplishment? I don't know what else people love. And so we just need to look at the concept of project management, tools and techniques that we talked about here. Don't use every one I mentioned, use the ones that add value when you do. And then get the satisfaction of knowing at the end of the day when you go home to your husband or wife or significant other, and you go, that's what I want to do. That's one of the reasons I fell in love with it. And I did more of my projects as volunteer projects than I did for corporations because it's sense of satisfaction you get for it. So don't be afraid of it. Don't worry about it. Can do it right. There's nobody in this room that's not plenty smart enough to be a project manager. It's just a matter of making up your mind. Now, the not get good register manager. Oh, I was hoping that. This is what concluded my PMI career in 2009 when I was elected to be a PMI Fellow. There's been 100 names since 1983. 30 of them are dead, and 70 of them are alive. With 2 that are kind of working. So this is, I'll tell you what, this gets you more mileage than anything I've ever seen. That's why I wear this, because a lot of people ask. Some of the PMI people get this. I made a point of it. There were some PMI people, staff people, at this meeting in where did I say it was? Orlando, yeah. This meeting in Orlando, that somebody asked them what it was. Oh my God. So I wrote a letter to the CEO of PMI. I said, I think this orientation. Because I said, this isn't the only thing. There's several really big deal awards. And you work for PMI and you don't know what those are? So I think that'll be a new recognition next time to have that there. But it's pretty. They call it the most prestigious award at PMI, and it only takes your entire life and all your money to get it. All right. Anything else? That's good. All right. Let me thank you. Let me say this. 11. Am I bill 11 times? 11 times. I don't call it very much. So you know that I appreciate you as an audience, okay? Now, if you don't mind me as a speaker, I don't. Okay? I appreciate you as an audience. I think every time I've been here, sometimes I'm stuck in that little tiny thing over there. But every time I've come here, I felt like you're interested. I felt like you're in tune with me, and listening to what I have to say. So that's what's important for me as a speaker. You know, and I always say, you know, if you've got questions or follow up or anything, you know, I'm easy to find. Don't hesitate to do it. I spend half my day every day talking to people about how they got better. So don't hesitate whatsoever. Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, and now our back to our president, Mr. Edgery, to close us up for the night.
Thank you again, Lee. Excellent presentation. You never disappoint. You never disappoint. Need to share some sad news. And that is that we've been informed that Normandie Farms Restaurant will be closing. And that's going to be on June 26th. Yeah, so yeah, I'm the bearer of some very, very bad news there. So he hid. I was just back in his office, but I want to make sure that we all thank and appreciate Mr. K and his outstanding wait staff. Some of them are hiding back there, but if we give them a round of applause, please. I've been with the chapter 18 years, and Charlie and I were talking about it tonight. Wasn't too long after I joined that we started coming to Normandie Farms, and they have just been an outstanding supporter of everything that we've done, from our dinner meetings like this. We look around, we have a lot of people here tonight, but especially when we have member appreciation, when the dinner's free, for some reason, more people show up. We still cannot figure that out. Don't get me started on Agile. Lee and I had a great discussion before this started too. All right, so what we do know is that the restaurant is going to be open under new management sometime next year. All right, so sometime next year, don't know when, under new management, don't know what it's going to look like. So you can look around and see the restaurant the way it is today, but there's a lot of rumors of what it might be. All right. So there's no guarantees that we will be coming back here. However, we'll keep our options open. We are going to take the months of July and August off, as we've done in the past. And we're going to use that time to research some places. If you all are local, you know of some restaurants that you really highly recommend, our criteria is it needs to be able to hold about 300 people, because that's our high water mark for our member appreciation dinner. All right. Mr. K also has been gracious to volunteer. He's going to look on our behalf as well. Talk about a great guy, right? Yep. That means that the first meeting at this new venue is going to be in September. All right, so that's our target. I am going to. So Matt's trying to keep me in line, so that's good. It's great to have good board members to have your back. Our next meeting will be here, May the 4th. And the first Wednesday in June is June the 1st. That's going to be our last meeting here at Normandie Farms. So we are making that a free member appreciation dinner. So we're going to go out with a bang. So folks on the phone, online here, make sure we'll put the word out, but I would like to fill this place to bursting. You know, we just send off our friends from Normandie Farm with a bang. All right, that's all I have. Wish I could end on a happier note, but let's just swing it back to what we did learn tonight. We had the great honor to have Lee with us tonight for a great presentation. Please be safe in your travels home. Oh, what did I miss? He's got one thing. I'm not going to say goodnight then. Here. Then I'll say goodnight.
Those who think they live with no regret, he refutes your claim and really puts some science and good observations to it. So, Dr. Kathy, you are pick a name out of the hat. And then Mr. Arthur Brooks has a bestseller right now, From Strength to Strength, as we mature in our life experience, how to maintain happiness and success. And Atul Seth, are you here? Great.
Okay, back to me. Let's try this one more time. Please be safe in your travels home. We are looking forward to seeing you in May, the 4th, and have a great evening. Thank you. Matt wants me to say, may the 4th be with you. Come on. Have a good night, everybody.